But I'm Bill Duffy, I'm president of NeuroRestorative, and we are truly appreciative of you guys taking the time out of your day today to come hear from us, and hopefully we will be able to answer your questions, concerns, either today, tomorrow, the next day. And there's, you're going to hear a lot of important information that I think will be helpful to you and certainly helpful to us. But, first of all, know that this day is about all of you, the employees, because, we have two assets in our programming space. One are the people that we're privileged to serve, that, whether it's a referring hospital or a loved one who has someone in need of their services that send them to us. And then secondly, the asset is all of you, all of the staff who been, whether it's staff at Neuro in a residential group home in Florida, or now all of you folks here in the state of Pennsylvania, which we're extremely excited to get involved with. I will talk a little bit about Neuro in a minute, and hear more from the folks here. But first of all, I want to take a moment, and Rita's heard me say this a couple of times today, but Rita and Jim, and certainly all of you, but the dedication that she applied 34 years ago to home and community services is today on the cutting edge. There isn't any place that we go in, whether it's with our other colleagues in the space or anywhere else, everyone is getting into the space. Well, she was well ahead of that curve, and testimony to her and the tremendous programming she built here in Pennsylvania, which today I think you guys are at 270, 280, 300 individuals you serve, and the great teams across the state from Pittsburgh all the way to Lehigh Valley down into this market here, certainly greater Philadelphia. So throughout this whole process, I've known Rita for a few years, and Jim, but throughout this whole process, she has been laser focused on two things, and I think that's something that you all probably know about Rita. One was, how will the patients and clients be cared for going forward, and who should we partner with to do that? And secondly was the staff. How will the staff make out through a transition? Because obviously it's changed. We hope all of you stay with us and work with us. The next several hours and days, you're going to be filling out some paperwork, but no question is off limits. Please ask, because the anxiety level goes up, right? It's just human nature. We all experience it. But let me just give a brief history of NeuroRestorative, because I think it'll help. Certainly, there's plenty of time for more of that. But NeuroRestorative is a division within the Mentor Network. The Mentor Network started not unlike Rita did in 1986, but in 1980, where a gentleman who was in state government, Massachusetts, realized that there's a better way for individuals who need services to not be in institutions. And he literally opened up one residential program in the city of Cambridge, and the rest is history. Today, we have over 30,000 employees nationwide. We're in 35 states, 26 states in NeuroRestorative, and we serve anywhere from 25 to 30,000 individuals. In our space, in the healthcare space, from California to Maine to Florida, we serve roughly close to 3,000 individuals in a wide variety of settings, and Jim and the team will be taking you through that. But I think one of the things that I echoed this morning to everybody as well, we all been in healthcare a long time, and we all hear the term quality. Our quality is premier. You see all the slogans and logos, and we have to do it. It's branding, right? It's something we do. But I think what sets us apart, obviously, I know the mainline team was devoted to this too. It's the only profession that you can be part of where tomorrow you can improve and be better, because we take care of people who are in fragile states of care, who need help, who need reconditioning, rehabilitation, and you always try to do better the next day. And my point on that is we're not perfect. There's clearly times as we take care of all these people across all these states that we make mistakes. We're going to continue to make them, but That's what makes being in healthcare wonderful, because you can do continuous quality improvement if you're really dedicated to it. So I think that's what hopefully separates us from some of our competitors, and I speak very highly of all of them as well. But lastly, I want to introduce some of the folks here in the room. One of them is not here. Sergio Cruz, you'll get a chance to meet him. He's the Chief Financial Officer for NeuroRestorative. Tori Harding is our Vice President of Development Marketing, and she's be talking at. And Bob Moritz, I don't want to single out Bob. I don't want his head to get too big. But Bob is the VP of Human Resources, who I don't want to say he's the most important person you'll hear from today, but I think he probably is, because there's a lot of, like I said, today's about all of you and us making sure that we get you not only just signed up right, but that you guys feel comfortable in a lot of the issues going forward. You're going to have some questions that you'll get in your car and you'll think about clearly ask again. So we're going to hear from Bob. But these two gentlemen here, Jim Kramer is the VPO of the North. He'll walk us through a little bit of, that region, if you will. Jim has the largest region in our book. We have the North, the South, and the West. And Scott Shaw, who's been with us. Scott is the Executive Director of the Central. These are folks you'll be interacting with not only today, but in the days ahead. But lastly, I do want to turn the meeting over to Rita to say a few words, because clearly we want to say thank you again. And it's been a humbling experience for us to be involved with Mainline.
Just wanted to take a few minutes to thank you guys for coming to the meeting virtually and for real here. I know that we had a chance to talk about this to a degree yesterday, and just wanted to take the time to sort of reiterate some of the things that we talked about. This was a process that was a thoughtful process, and we had multiple opportunities to work with different programs. Had a chance to really vet things, to really spend time. And as Bill said, we've known each other for a while now, and I've certainly known some of the team as well. But the thing that impressed me over and over again was how it felt like a good fit for us. I think that when we began to talk about vision and the future of Mainline, it was easy to see that these guys were speaking the same language as we were, that they got us. And not everybody gets home and community when you're coming purely from that residential background. And we start talking, we know that they don't get us. But NeuroRestorative got us right from the get-go, and that was super important. The other piece that was important was what happens with you guys and the people that we serve. And they were very clear from day one that the value that they placed on your expertise and knowledge was of the highest possible quality. So they want you guys here. They want to be able to learn from you. They want to be able to grow with you guys. The other thing that impressed me too was being able to take things beyond just the state level. We know that we're serving very regionally right now. Can we extend those services beyond that? And then can we take a look at this model perhaps being someplace else in other states? So these are the things that I used to dream about doing, and I think these are the folks that can really make that a reality. So I think as we go through the next hour, you'll be very impressed with what they have to say.
Hi, my name is Jim Kramer. I'm the Vice President of Operations for NeuroRestorative North. And my colleague here is Scott Shaw. He's the Executive Director for the Central Region. Pennsylvania is a part of both the North and the Central Region. We wanted to provide some context for where you fit into NeuroRestorative. And so we're providing this full states represent the parts of the country that are that have neurorestorative services in them. And this map is constantly evolving. Our most recent program started in Kansas, and it's also a home and community model program. And our hope is that what we learn from you guys who've had home and community programs going here in Pennsylvania for a long time, we can also apply and help grow our Kansas program. NeuroRestorative has three regions: the northern region, which goes from Kansas out west to Maine out east. There's a southern region that has Texas all the way to Florida, and then there's a western region that covers California to Colorado. For the north region, we employ about 1,200 employees. About 2,200 employees, about 1,200 individuals in care, or participants is how we refer to people we take care of and support. And we're in 11 states. So one of the things that I'm going to ask that Scott talk about in a moment is Carbondale, which is our southernmost point in the northern region, how it started as an acquisition, its important role in NeuroRestorative. But before we do that, I want to talk about the services that we provide. Some of what we do here is home and community. You can see that about 4% is in home and community. But we had other service lines too. Originally, most of our services ended up being in residential, facility-based services through supported living, which is long-term residential treatment, neuro rehab, which is active neuro behavioral treatment or neuro rehab treatment, and then neurobehavioral therapy. What we found as we work in the different communities is that value and models of care continue to evolve. And what a lot of communities are looking for is they're looking for people to be served in their own home or in their own community, closer to home. No one wants to have to go out of state or go live someplace else to recuperate. And so what we've been able to do is evolve our services. Home and community 5 years ago represented less than 2% of our services. Now we're over 4%. With the start of Kansas, that will increase even further. We have active home and community models in Michigan and in New Jersey. And with you guys coming on board as part of the team, that's going to expand even further. So we're very excited about that. I'm going to ask Scott now to talk a little bit about the beginning of NeuroRestorative. He lives in Carbondale, and I think that he can talk with you about the culture. It was our first acquisition.
So I came to NeuroRestorative in February of 2015 from a Pennsylvania brain injury program. I was running the Defense Veterans Brain Injury Center site in Johnstown. So Pennsylvania brain injury is very close to my heart. And I landed in Carbondale, where post-hospital brain injury, residential brain injury rehab started in 1977. The first provider of those services, the Center for Comprehensive Services, is what has evolved into NeuroRestorative all these years later. So we're very proud of that history and that tradition, but what we're also very proud of is that we don't stop there. We continually evolve our services. This growth in pediatrics that you see, a good bit of that is in Carbondale. We've launched new programs there in our oldest program in the country. So sometimes we have that innovation internally, and sometimes we go looking for it in great providers like me. So we're very excited to have you with us. We're excited for you to be part of that innovation, and we're here to start working with you.
When we look at kind of acquisitions or companies to partner with, one of the specific criteria that we look for is excellence in serving. Our primary mission is to expand the number of people across the country that have access to high quality brain injury rehab service. And there's not enough providers out there. What we see in mainline is that your mission and values align very closely to our own. And our hope is that with our infrastructure, as Rita shared earlier, we'll be able to help leverage what you've already got as a strong foundation and help grow into further parts of Pennsylvania and also outside of Pennsylvania to larger parts of the country. I'm gonna pass the microphone to Bob Moritz in a moment. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about the integration process. So when you guys come on board as part of the team, there's generally some anxiety about what does that mean for my future. You guys, many of you have been with Mainline for many years, and you've worked with the same people constantly, used to the systems that you've been doing. With this acquisition, our goal is to minimize as much disruption to patient care and ensure that your quality of life as an employee remains as high as possible. Okay. Having said that, there are going to be some changes. Integration, you coming on board with NeuroRestorative, isn't a light switch. It's not that one day you're Mainline, the next day you're NeuroRestorative. Okay. It's this transition across weeks and months. Okay. Again, our focus is let's not disrupt the apple cart. Let's keep services going the way they should be going. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen. What will help that process quite a bit is you guys asking as many questions as possible. Scott and myself will be in Exton tomorrow. We'll be in Pittsburgh on Thursday. We'll make ourselves available. NeuroRestorative has a broad network of supports that you'll be able to reach out and ask questions of. And I think that companies that do avail themselves of asking as many questions as possible helps the transition go as smoothly as possible. Any questions? All right. So with that, Bob, we're in.
So for the folks in the room, I'm going to hand out a welcome kit that has some key information that we wanted to provide you on day one. That you can, we'll cover a little bit of it today, but it's also, it's intended to give you something to take home and to look at it at your leisure. Show it to your family. It has a lot of information about the Mentor Network and NeuroRestorative. There's some information in there on the benefits, but as we've heard a couple times already today, from Rita, from Bill, and from Jim, it's you three here today in this room, and folks on the phone are what are important to us in terms of going forward. We can't do it without you, and there is so I want to hopefully take that out of your off the table in terms of what does this change mean to me, because it is a change, and most people, myself included, are not crazy about change, but change is life, and this change is significant. And so I definitely don't want to underplay the change and the impact that I'm hearing in the news, but I just hopefully from meeting us and hearing some of the philosophies and I echo what they said is that we're very excited about this transaction. We see Mainline Rehab as a great fit in the business that we do and the people we serve, and it allows us to expand our footprint to serve more people, which is part of our ongoing growth, whether it's organic growth or through acquisitions, in order to serve more people, extend that continuum of care. And as Bill mentioned, more and more we're seeing that people want to be supported in their homes, and so we think this is a great addition to the NeuroRestorative team, but it's not going to be a great addition if you don't all come with us. And so I want to, as the lead HR person, hopefully take that off of your anxiety plate, that you're not going to, at some point we're going to say, hey, we don't need you. There is no, and for folks on the phone, there is no interview process. There is no screening. We are everyone that's working for Mainline Rehab today, we want to be working for Mainline Rehab tomorrow, next week, and in the months to come. Part of that commitment is when we have these transactions that I want to make people aware of, is that whatever tenure or service that you have with Mainline is going to come with you. So you're not coming in, as a new employee, this is day one on your new service. If you've been with Mainline for 5, 10 years, 15, 6 months, your tenure or your service or your hire date with Mainline is going to come with you. And we're going to credit that or honor, I'd rather use the word honor that because 2 reasons. One, it's the right thing to do as an employer. And I think it's important to honor not only the commitment that you've had to Mainline Rehab, but also, someone else mentioned it's important to us, the experience that you have and the relationships that you've built with not only the people you work with, but the people you serve. Those are all critical to us being successful and continuing to provide the quality of care that Bill mentioned, which is so important to our mission. So tenure is, I'll talk about that, how that works, how that plays into some of the benefit programs. But that was number one I want to make sure I mention. You can see from the, I don't know if you can see this in the room here, but one of the items we always try and to, it's a huge priority for us. It may not seem like it, but we want to try and minimize as much disruption with the payroll process and with the benefit process, because once you've been told, your job is, we want you to stay with us from an employment standpoint. The next thing that's most important is what's going to happen, what's going to change in terms of how I get paid, or what's going to change in terms of the benefits that I'm eligible for. And I'll cover those here in a couple minutes. But then, the last piece of that, the slide that's on the screen is we are going to need your help in terms of gathering some information. We need to execute or complete another I-9, which you remember did when you got hired. But part of this transaction is we have to redo the I-9. I know that sitting here today, or those on the phone, you may not have the documents you need in terms of the identification, but we're working through that over the next couple of days. Again, myself and Janet and Amani will be in the Exton office tomorrow. Jim and Scott will be in the Pittsburgh office on Thursday to help with that process as well. And then we'll also ask that you complete an authorization for us to do a background check on a national basis, which is part of the Mentor Network policy. So there is some paperwork that we'll need to do at the end of the meeting. And then, lastly, hopefully answer whatever questions you may have coming in to today, but also know that it doesn't stop today. This isn't the only time you'll be able to ask questions. And from the previous meetings that we had earlier today, we're going to start to, later on today, to put together a kind of running tally of FAQs that have come up that we can share with Jim and Rita, that they have the ability, I guess, to do group emails. So we'll start with some of the common questions that came up today, and with whatever answers we have, or it could be we need to research that and get back. But whatever we can answer, we'll do it as quickly as possible. And then some of the items I'm going to talk about in terms of the transition of the payroll and the benefits, we'll include those in the FAQs as well, so that you have something you can reference or refer to if tomorrow or the next day, and someone says, "What was it that guy Moritz talked about in terms of when my last check will be with Mainline and when my first check will be with the Mentor Network?" So we'll incorporate that into the FAQs as well. But speaking of the payroll, the transition for the payroll will be that you will stay on the Mainline rehab payroll until February 1st, which is the end of an end of the pay period. And just so you know, our pay periods and our pay frequency lines up perfectly with Mainline Rehab, which is very unusual. And so that makes the transition a little more less stressful, is that we are on the same start of the pay period, end of the pay period. Our pay days are on Friday following the end of the pay period, similar to mainline. And so to help with the transition, knowing that we're just meeting you all today, the decision was to keep you on the mainline payroll through February 1st, and then you would come on to the network payroll February 2nd, which is the start of a new pay period. And that pay period ends on February 15th, and then the first check that you will get from the Mentor Network will be on that Friday, the following Friday, February 21st. Again, a lot of dates, and we'll memorialize those in the FAQ so that you can have those. But and we hope that you'll take advantage of our the direct deposit. So and given that the time frame that we have, I'm feeling pretty confident that that first check that you get on the 21st, if you go into the portal at the right time, you'll be able to set up your direct deposit. That will be a direct deposit check, which is always, I think, a better thing than trying to wait for the check to get. But part of, again, our process over the next couple of days is to make sure we gather, the most up-to-date information from each of you in terms of your addresses, so that when we upload that information into our system, we have the most accurate information, going forward. Tied to that upload of your information to give you access to our systems and to get you into our payroll system, that will generate an employee ID number that we will provide you once we upload the information, and that ID number will be you'll want to hold on to that, which is your key to registering to the employee portal, which is I think of it as our one-time, one-shop stop where you can check your personal information or make changes to your address if needed. You can sign up for direct deposit on our portal. You can set up your withholdings on our portal. You can check your pay advice or your pay stub on our portal. You can check out our benefits. You can track your time off. So I think it's a great resource. And there's information in the welcome kits that talk about the employee portal. There's some FAQs on how the employee portal works. And for the folks on the phone, the question came up earlier. I'm going to be hopefully later today providing Jim and Rita electronic copies of what's in these welcome kits that we can send out so that you have those on a kind of an interim basis until we can actually get the hard copies sent out to you, knowing that a lot of people are working remotely and not in an office such as Exton or Pittsburgh. If you're participating in one of the mainline rehab benefit programs, those are going to continue through the end of January. It made sense given the way your plans were set up and the funding of those plans to keep those in place until January 31st. And if you're averaging 30 or more hours a week, you'll be eligible for our benefits. We consider people that work 30 or more hours a week to be full-time benefit eligible, not only for our medical, dental, vision plans, but also for our time off plans. So, but if you're enrolled in a mainline benefit program, it will run until January 31st, and you'll be immediately eligible to enroll in the Mentor Network plans as of February 1st. There'll be no waiting period, which again is what we do when we do these types of transactions, because we want to make sure that there is no gap in the coverage that you need as an employee or someone that is providing coverage for folks in your family. There'll be you won't have to. You'll have 30 days to, if you're benefit eligible. Again, that 30 hours or more a week, you'll have 30 days to do some research on our plans. Some of that information is included in the welcome kit, but there's a ton of information on the employee portal. And so my plan or my goal is to get you your employee ID numbers sooner than later so that you can register on the portal and be able to look for the benefit section and check to see if your doctors are in network. You can get the cost information for the benefit programs, as well as look at the various plan options we have for our medical and dental plans and vision. And we have a full suite of benefit programs being part of the Mentor Network. Time off. Right now, if you're eligible for time off with Mainline, it's a PTO program, and so you will continue to accrue PTO right through February 1st as you stay on the Mainline payroll. And any accrued unused PTO that you have as of February 1st, we will get that information from Jim and Rita, and we will, the Mentor Network will pay out that accrued unused PTO to anyone that has it in that first paycheck that comes out on February 21st. That's the goal, is to get that PTO paid out, because you'll be, as of February 2nd, you'll be coming on to our payroll and start accruing time off. And if you're working 30 or more hours a week on our time off plan, which also in the welcome kits, it has some schedules there on how the time accrues under our time off program. And you will accrue that time, which is the key thing I was talking about with the tenure and service before, is that you will accrue the time off based on your service or tenure with Mainline. So if you've been with Mainline for 10 years, you'll be able to look at the schedule and make you'll be able to see how much you will accrue each pay period. Or if you've been with Mainline for 2 years, you'll be able to see how much you will accrue each pay period. And that will start up as soon as you come on to our payroll. So a question came up earlier today in regards to time off when they heard, oh my God, you're going to pay out my accrued time off, and I'm going to start from zero accruing time with the Mentor Network or NeuroRestorative. I have time off scheduled for the end of February, the school vacation, or I'm going, taking a few days off. What happens there? Well, we know that comes up because people don't all take vacation in the summer, or don't all take, so we allow for you to borrow against future accruals up to 40 hours of vacation if you have time that's scheduled, it's been approved, and you won't have enough time to accrue that time prior to taking it. So we want you to take it, and we want you to be able to get paid for it while you're accruing the time each pay period.
I have a question for you. In regards to that, would it already have to be scheduled?
No, I mean, again, over the next couple of weeks, if you know you're going to have some time, have some time off, that's great. But I don't know what the policy is for Mainline in terms of how much notice you have to give them for time off. And so that I would just continue to follow whatever that practice is with Mainline. If they say you got to give us 2 weeks notice, or you got to give us 3 days notice in terms of taking time off, just follow that sequence.
Okay. I only asked because I've been saving time, planning on taking off because my wife's never leaving in April. But with your company, I won't accrue that time by then. Even with the 48 hours, I was thinking over 4 accrued.
Yeah. So by April, you may have a week accrued. I don't know how many years you've been with Mainline. 10 years. So I would, but again, that 40, being able to draw that 40 hours, that, it doesn't have to be done in February or March. It's a, yeah. I mean, that's the 40-hour offer. That 40 hours is to go, to borrow against that accrued time. You'll be fine in April. I mean, the only time we would be concerned is if someone was trying to borrow time against future accruals
at the end of the year when they wouldn't have time to accrue it back. I mean, that's the, at the end of the day, that's what we have to be careful about for borrowing time when there's not enough time for them to accrue it back. And that's not going to be the case in April. It's not going to be the case in May. It may be the case in August, but at that point, people should have accumulated or accrued enough time for whatever time off they need. So having said that, I should have mentioned before, our time off year coincides with our fiscal year, which goes from October 1 to September 30th. So our time off resets on October 1st and runs through September 30th to coincide with our fiscal year, whereas our benefit year runs on a calendar year basis. So we literally just went through open enrollment for a new benefit plan that started January 1. Next open enrollment will be next November for January 2021. I think we're off of what Mainline. I think Mainline's benefit year started September 1. So we try and make it as complicated as possible between the time off year and the benefit year and the fiscal year, calendar year. But having coming in at this point, there's still plenty of time in the fiscal year to accrue time needed to take off, because taking time off is important to decompress and regroup and re-energize. It's time to relax. And congratulations, Jim. Any other questions? On phone?
Hi, this is Heather. I have a question. What if you needed to take time off because you were sick or just personal time? Can you borrow from the 40 hours if you're sick?
Actually, I got to make sure you can borrow up to 40 hours, 40. But you also, in our time off plan, you'll be credited with 16 hours of what we refer to as float time or personal time. And so that doesn't accrue. That, once you get uploaded into our system, you're going to see a credit of 16 hours of float time that you could use, again, as needed with your supervisor approval. But that time will also be available if you need to take some time off, at the early stage of the transition of the integration. So it's really, when you think about it, you can borrow up to 40 hours of vacation, and you'll also have 16 hours of float, so that's 56 hours. Is that the right number? Financially, so it's 56 hours of time that will be available, again, to help you with any time that you have scheduled or need to take in those early, weeks of the integration.
Okay.
Yeah. So sick time is a little different, but it's what's different is that we don't allow people to go into the negative for sick time, and the sick time is accrued similar to the vacation. So if you needed to take time off for a doctor's appointment or for if you were sick, you would either use the float time or draw against the vacation time. Does that help? Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Could you just review that one more time? I'm a little bit confused. When I was sick, I could not 40 hours.
No, you couldn't.
And you'll start accruing sick time right away.
Okay.
It's just if you find yourself in a situation before you concluded that sick time, you could borrow up to 40 hours of vacation time, or you could use your personal.
Yeah. I mean, the intent is that it may not be clear because there's a lot of information coming at you, but the intent is if you need to take time off in those early weeks, we don't want you to have to take it on paper. So you know, the question whether am I sick or am I taking a vacation day or a personal day, we want to be able to, you know, wherever we can, you know, again, provide ability for you to, if you need to take the time off, that you don't have to take that unpaid. And so we're going to try and be as flexible as possible as we go through this, you know, this transition period, knowing that, you know, life happens. Things happen that we can't anticipate. But the goal of this is to, as we've said before, is to minimize the disruption, not to, you know, turn the world upside down more than probably we already have by this transaction. But as I said at the beginning, we're very excited, and I hope that over time, each of you here in the room and on the phone will be equally as excited once you have a chance to let the, you know, the information absorb and have a chance to work with us, because we're, you know, looking forward to working with each of you. Any other questions? But today, I mean, again, this is not the last, you know, this isn't the only time you can ask questions, but I'm going to get the hook here in a second. And I did not. So it's a, we want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but just thinking ahead to, let's pretend we're now in September, and you have some vacation that's accrued that hasn't been used from September 30th. And we'll use the example of having 24 hours of vacation at the end of September, at the end of our fiscal year. And at that point, you know, we reset the balances, and those 24 hours of vacation will move to your sick bank, or your sick leave. It doesn't carry over as vacation. It just gets transferred to your sick leave bank, and then you continue to accrue at the start of the new fiscal year. But there will be, you know, there'll be plenty of notice as we get towards the end of the fiscal year to say, hey, here's what the schedule looks like, and here's what the timing is. But that time doesn't go away. It just moves from vacation to sick time. And sick time continues to accrue. There's no cap on the sick time. And that's something you won't lose that time. It just moves from the vacation bank to the sick bank at the end of the fiscal year. Anything that's accrued, not used. The float time that you get credited for, if you don't use that float time in the fiscal year, that disappears. So the advice there is to make sure you use the float time.
Vacation again, it starts anew, and then you can borrow.
Yep. Oh yeah, great point. Good point, Jim. So that, and again, for folks on the phone, similar to what we were talking about today with the you know, with the transition to the Mentor Network payroll, when we start a new fiscal year, it's the same. We have the same policy or the same practice that because people take time off in October. I mean, there's nothing, right? Why not October? Why not November? And so, because we do reset the vacation to zero and start accruing again, there's always that ability to borrow against future accruals of vacation at the start of the fiscal year, or, you know, the early part of the new fiscal year. If again, you have planned time off that's been, you know, that's been scheduled and accrued, so that you can take the time without worrying about whether you're going to get paid for it. And that's for, you know, not just for mainline, that's for everyone in NeuroRestorative or the Mentor Network.
Next up is Troy Hardy.
So this is our mark right here. I'm changing up the script a little bit because we're going to hear the same thing. So this is our marker, our brand. And if you can see, it's a stylized version of three individuals with their hands up towards the heavens to signify the stretch goals that we expect our program participants who report to us to get to support, the families, and the funders. So those are our three stakeholders that we're really beholden to ensure that the time and treasure that they give us is making a measurable difference. And as all of our colleagues have mentioned, the individual who we support, that is primacy, and on those individuals and the people who report to you that ensure that those measurable outcomes are going to be durable. So although there will be some changes over time to you as colleagues, there would be changes regardless of whether or not you partnered with NeuroRestorative. What shouldn't happen is that individuals who we support feel that change, that there is a seamlessness of the same quality support services that Rita and Jim and all of you have put in place. That shouldn't be felt by the main stakeholder, who's the individual who we support. I came as part of an acquisition too in 2009, and it was surprising to me on day one to hear that I would have new colleagues and this new group of people who were going to make some requests of me, but we all leaned in, and we saw that in addition to us being able to, as my former employer, to provide some education about what we did, and that's certainly what we're looking forward to, learning so much from you about the home and community space, but that there were also resources that we hope that you will avail yourself to in the coming months and years. Part of that is that we are truly seeing, because we're such a large provider in the space, and because we operate in so many different environments, 26 different states, may as well be 26 different countries. They all operate very differently based on the licensing rules or the funding rules, that we are good stewards of the discipline of post-acute brain injury rehabilitation, whether it's in the home and community or it's in a skilled nursing type of environment where we do operate in the West, and that we're leaders in research, education, and advocacy. So our research arm, we're the authors, the primary authors of over 20 articles in peer-reviewed journals, and we partner with a lot of the medical schools across the country, and many of our clinicians who are dual appointed as faculty with many universities, and we're happy to use our outcomes to answer those important research questions. So we are going to ask over time that you help us with those data collection so that we can ensure that we are telling the story when we're out in the community about how we make this measurable difference from the time somebody admits to our program to the time that they discharge, or if they're with us for longer than a year, that we're serially measuring how well they're reducing their disability. We use the Mayo Portland Adaptability Inventory, which I know you're familiar with, and also the Supervision Rating Scale, which is a measurement of burden of care for the family. We also do sampling at 3 months, 6 months, a year, and 2 years post-discharge to ensure that those individuals who we are fortunate enough to get to support are going to have that durability of outcome. That it's not just something that, hey, they're able to maintain for a couple of months, but that we've set them up well for the rest of their lives, potentially, to engage in their communities, to adjust to their disabilities, and you know all about that, and also to improve their abilities. So this is just representative of some of our outcomes, and we will be providing training on how we collect those, but all of those data come from you, and we're happy that we get to now see you add to our bank of outcomes. Currently, about 4,000 unique individuals are represented there, and we're happy that you'll get to add to that to answer these important research questions. We also work together with many stakeholders on education series. We have a monthly webinar series where there are about 500 different people who join on a live basis to hear from our experts in across the country. And we have some guest folks from outside of the neurorestorative system as well. We participate with a lot of not-for-profits and organizations that are aimed at increasing access to care. So certainly the Pennsylvania Brain Injury Coalition, we've been members of that and are working together on a number of different efforts to try and increase the opportunity for individuals to access the supports and services that you all provide. I'll say as 11 years ago, when I was fortunate enough to become acquired, it's been a great experience. And I think you'll find that the colleagues that are now you and you are us, they're just folks that the same things that keep you up awake at night keep all of us awake at night. We want to ensure the individual we support is safe and is going to avoid recidivism back into the medical system. And I've been here 11 years and really not a knucklehead among us. So we're looking forward to getting to work with you. And please, you get tapped on the shoulder now for your clinical expertise. It's because we want to ensure that we're taking everything that we have learned from you and ensuring that our other stakeholders around the country are benefiting from the acumen. may have some questions, probably for Bob.
Well,
He's
you're
more.
giving that same speech to another company.
Yeah. I said it before that not a knucklehead among us. I have people say, well, if you say there's not a knucklehead, maybe you're the knucklehead. Or maybe it's me, I don't know.
So that's our presentation for today. Certainly, we can stay on the line if anybody has additional questions. We're going to be in Exton tomorrow. We're going to be in Pittsburgh on Thursday. But that's not the end of us. We're here to stay. Scott and I are available, as are many other parts of the NeuroRestorative and the Mentor Network. So we want to be resources to you. And don't be surprised if we start asking questions. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, the number of questions we ask, because we really want to learn what makes Mainline special. Okay? My ask is if we start overwhelming you with questions, or you feel as though we're interrupting the flow of care and interrupting our supporting with excellence the men and women that you serve in the community, please speak up and we'll work around that. Okay? Because we can't disrupt services. That needs to be our number one goal. Okay? Any questions? All right, folks. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.